Today on Country Pocket, we have the Lucky Valentines. Their names are Jamie and Shaun. Why don't you guys introduce yourselves a little bit?
I'm Shaun, and this is Jamie.
Yeah.
She's my wife.
Yeah, we're married. That's where the name came from. We actually got married on Valentine's Day, like a couple of saps.
Mm-hmm.
Well, a couple of saps you are not. You definitely go for some dark themes in this album, and we're going to talk about Ashes to Ashes first. It is somehow both a celebration of a life and a message telling that person that everything they did has crumbled to dust. How do you mix those two things and celebrate a person and credit them for their good while telling them it didn't work out?
Ooh, well, that's exactly what that song is. And I guess the way that I did that was just being honest. And that seems to be such a theme of how life goes. Well, at least how my life has felt like it goes is you have really beautiful things that are that people work hard for, and you see a lot of good, but then so much of that just doesn't work. Like it does crumble, and that the line ashes to ashes, dust to dust, like it. I guess my whole life, you hear that in at funerals and in movies and different things, and I guess when it comes right down to it, that just is the truth about being a human, is that nothing that we do aside from the love, and I guess maybe that's where the thanking that or telling that person, like, you're so wonderful, and I appreciated you, and I saw how hard you worked, um and so the love is what sticks around even when the rest of it is literally like blowing away in the wind.
Are you afraid at all that what you've done in your life will blow away at some point after you're gone?
I'm more afraid of it blowing away while I'm still here. Honestly, like I guess I know that it will. I know that it won't last. I guess we have this, like, this digital age of music and stuff, so much of what we do actually could be permanent as long as the internet doesn't disappear, which it probably will if we're being quite frank. But I guess I don't really fear that as much as I fear that what I do today won't matter until I'm gone. Sometimes, like, I would so much rather, like, hear what people think of me today than have to, like, wait till I die and people pour out their hearts about me at my funeral service, or, like, the music I make today maybe won't matter, but when I'm dead, someone will find it and be like, "Man, this was brilliant stuff," or like. So yeah, I guess I know that it will disappear eventually, but I'd rather see it. I'd rather see the fruits in my during my life than wait till I'm gone.
Moving on to one called Junk Mail. Um, Sort of touching on what you were saying there. Is it too late to get to know someone after they've died?
Mm.
No, no. That song. I wrote the first half of that song. My father died last March of an unexpected heart attack, and he spent about three. We spent about 3 days with him in the intensive care unit before it was apparent that he wasn't coming back. And and so I wrote the first half of that song with him sitting there, and I wrote the second half of that song after he'd passed. Um, and through the process of walking through that grief and learning how to, like, mourn, and learning how to, because I think grief and mourning are conflated a lot of the time, and they're different things. Grief, what I've come to recognize and what I've been taught, is that grief is a call, grief is a prompt, and mourning is an action. mourning is what we do when grief comes to call. And through the process of learning that and choosing to engage in mourning, I recognize that my father's still with me, though he's not alive anymore. He's still with me, and I get to know new things about him all the time. I get to realize things about him that I didn't have the opportunity to know. That's where there's that line in the song, you know, the things you never showed me, all the color in your scars, the burns, the birthmarks, the busted teeth. Like, there are things that have come to light about my father in his passing that he never shared with me, but that are now mine to know. And so, that can be heavy and hard and scary, and it can also be good and and you know um it can be good at the same time. So yeah, I definitely feel like I get to know you. He's not gone. He's passed on, but he's not gone. I carry him with me, you know.
Jamie, was Ashes to Ashes based on something in your life, or?
Yeah, it's very directly about my maternal grandparents who were a huge part of my growing up, and I lived on the farm. Like my young life was on the farm that they farmed, so like a generational place. So that there's a lot of imagery about the place and about just them and their legacy in my life. Yeah.
Um, in Junk Mail, you talk about laying the person to rest and helping them move on with medicine. What practically can we actually do for someone after they're gone?
Mm. So I come from an indigenous bloodline. Um, I'm a, I'm an enrolled member of the Rocky Boys tribe of Chippewa Cree Indians, and I'm Métis as well. And uh, there's a writer who's also Anishinaabe, named Louise Erdrich, and she talks about this tradition of, like, not using a person's name once they've passed on. You don't use their name, right? Because while they're on their way to wherever we go, it can call them back and confuse their spirit. And for me, um, the way that I I take that and hear that is that it's if there's anything I can do for the people that I lose, right? If there's anything I can do for the people who have gone, right? It's to let them go as best I can, and so for me that looks like a lot of things. That looks like, in some ways working through the things that are hanging me up about them. The resentment. My relationship with my father was very complicated, and then there's a lot of hurt and hard feelings. You know, but being willing to look at those in new ways. You know, and two, the complications of honoring someone's wishes when they pass too. Like, uh, I think everybody attends funerals, but you've never seen a funeral. You'll never see a funeral the same way after having planned one. And there's always questions. There were tons of questions with Dad about. That's a lot of what that song was about. It was about, we needed to know what he wanted. We needed to know if there was a will, and we couldn't get into his house. His landlord uh, had some questions and fears about letting us onto the property because he didn't know us from Adam. And um, so we get in the house, and then we're literally digging through, at one point, like a 33-gallon husky drum full of junk mail, because there's a possibility there'd be some important paperwork in there that might let us know what Dad wanted. So just being willing to do the work to answer those questions well, and to and to engage in forgiveness. You know, those are the things I feel like are necessary, not just for the person, but for yourself as well.
Well, let's hear junk mail and we will be right back.